Hey, what's up guys, it's Darius, and when a new major flagship smartphone is released, like the new S7, there's often the hype about the camera and promises are made like DSLR-like quality and so on. But is that actually true? I want to find out exactly how good the brand new and hugely advertised Galaxy S7's camera is, and if it can replace a point and shoot. Here, I've got the brand new Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge and the Nexus 6P, which has one of the best cameras on any smartphone out there. I'm going to put them to the test, comparing them with a popular point-and-shoot, the Sony RX100. Starting with the Nexus 6P, it has a 12.3 megapixel camera with an aperture of f2.0. It has a 1/2.3 inch sensor with laser autofocus. Sadly, it lacks OIS, but it has larger pixels of 1.55 microns. The Samsung Galaxy S7, the S7 and the S7 Edge actually have the same camera, have a 12 megapixel camera, down from 16, but it now has a wider aperture of f1.7. It has a 1/2.6 inch sensor with a pixel size of 1.4 microns. It comes with OIS and dual pixel autofocus. The autofocus is crazy fast on it and apparently is amazing in low light. Also, the S7 comes with two different camera sensors, either one from Samsung or from Sony. I have the Sony one. Lastly, the Sony RX100. Just to be clear, this is the first generation. There are newer models available, but they are much more expensive, and the Mark I is still a great camera. It has a 20.2 megapixel shooter with a 1-inch sensor and a 28 to 100mm zoom lens. It has optical image stabilization and the pixels are 2.4 microns big. To keep the depth of field similar, I took all the images on the RX100 at f3.5. The bigger the sensor, the larger the depth of field. Here's an example of how it would look like if they were all at its largest aperture, so that's why I adjusted it. First of all, I took all the images in auto mode. Yes, they all have manual modes, and professionals would never use auto, but this is for average consumers, and most of them take pictures in auto. Also, I wanted to see how good the cameras perform by themselves. And it goes without saying that they all are unedited. You can compare and judge the images for yourself, and you might have a different taste than me, but this is what I've noticed. Starting with images taken in good lighting, the S7 tends to have the most vibrant colors and is slightly more on the warmer side. The 6P has good colors also, but they are more on the cooler side. The RX100 usually has the least saturated colors, but they are also a little more accurate. In terms of color, I mostly prefer the S7, but sometimes the 6P is also very good. White balance is good on all of them. Like I said, the S7 tends to take more warmer looking images and the 6P more cooler looking ones. The RX100 stays neutral and usually accurate. All of them are very crispy and detailed, the S7 the most probably, closely followed by the 6P. The S7 has a little sharpening going on, which sometimes creates small artifacts, but in general, it's fine. Dynamic range is supposed to be the best on the RX100 due to its larger sensor, but it sadly isn't. It tends to overexpose and it's just not that great. On the S7, it's fairly good and it often overexposes slightly in order for an overall brighter image, but I like that. The 6P's dynamic range is fine also, but it tries to not overexpose anything and therefore the images are often a little darker. The depth of field is great on all of them. Not really one is consistently superior, but of course the RX100 is only at f3.5. In low light, the 6P was amazing, one of the best I've tested, which was a couple of weeks ago. The S7 is advertised as being awesome in low light, and the RX100 is supposed to be the best due to its larger sensor. The 6P does fine, and it's great in terms of noise performance. The images can be a little desaturated, but it's fine. It takes a little longer to take the picture, and it will process HDR later on, but I don't really mind that. The only problem is that they are truly dark. The S7 on the other hand is a lot brighter thanks to its 1.7 aperture. The images look nice, but have a famous for Samsung yellowish tint sometimes. When there's very little light, it sadly is even bad. The images are barely saturated and detail isn't good. That's very unfortunate because I was really hoping that it was amazing in low light. It could have something to do with the Sony sensor that I have, but I doubt that that is the case. So if there's a little light, then it performs well, but when there's barely any light, it sadly is bad. The RX100 is decent in low light, but not great. When there's barely any light, it is desaturated and there's a lot of noise. The auto mode is also weird for some reason. It clearly knows that I'm shooting handheld, but it still wants to shoot at ISO 100, which makes it impossible to get a shake-free image due to the slow shutter speed. Lastly, in terms of video quality, both smartphones shoot UHD video, but it's not stabilized. If you want stabilized video, you have to go down to 1080p. The RX 100 only shoots 1080p video, but it's also stabilized. All of them are great in terms of image quality. The S7 is the best, I'd say. The focus is amazing and super fast on the S7, and it's very quick on the 6P also. The RX 100 has a lot of trouble focusing, especially on closer objects. So in terms of pure image quality, smartphones, especially the S7, can definitely replace point-and-shoot cameras. In some cases, they're even superior. They're also much more practical because they're faster to use and lighter, and I mean, you carry them around in your pocket all the time. Now they can't replace point-and-shoots completely. For example, in terms of zoom, with smartphones you can't really zoom unlike with a point-and-shoot. They also have larger sensors, which achieve a greater depth of field or better low-light performance, but that wasn't really the case with the RX 100. If you, however, don't really care for these things that much, then a smartphone is perfectly fine. I personally would not buy a point-and-shoot anymore unless it's a very good and expensive one, but then you can also get a DSLR or DSLM. Otherwise, I'd stick to your smartphone if it's a newer model. I'll have links down below to the phones if you want to buy any of them. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, especially to not miss my Galaxy S7 review. See you in the next one. Bye.